I, nearly adult male, am the oldest kid in my family. My parents have 2 bio kids, me and my twin sister, and they adopted my 4 other siblings. I had dozens of foster siblings over the years as well. My parents have struggled to make time and have the money for all of us. It has meant a lot of sacrifices, mostly on my part. My parents were able to make sure all my younger siblings had at least one activity outside of school to do, but they never did that for me. I was forced to play football when I was 5, but by the time I was 7, my parents had started fostering and I was no longer doing that. My siblings all get to do something they like. Cora does dance, for example. Some of my other siblings are in music classes. The younger kids were also prioritized with school field trips, so they always got to go while I haven't since I was 6. The last time I asked was when I was about 9 and my parents told me to work for the money to pay. My grandparents found out what they said and gave me the money, and my parents took it from me to use for the household. My grandparents were so mad at them for that. They delayed my tonsil surgery by 2 years because they prioritized 2 foster kids and 2 of my siblings' surgeries over mine. My grandparents saw how much I was getting the short end of everything with my parents, and they set up a college fund for me. It's a lot of money and it caught me off guard. My parents know about it but cannot access it. They only know because of a fight with my grandparents over the lack of saving for my future when they've saved something for my siblings. My parents said the money my grandparents saved should be divided equally because $350,000 is a lot to save for one grandchild when you have multiple. That money is still there and I have plans for it, but my youngest sister is a kindergartner and she needs a pretty major stomach surgery. She's had a lot of health troubles since her birth, and my parents have paid a lot of money for her medical expenses. They were told this surgery could turn her life around and give her a chance at living with less pain and stomach complications. It could give her a more normal childhood because she can't do much. They don't have the money for the surgery and they want me to give them the money to pay for it and the expenses afterward. They said they need $270,000 for the whole thing, and maybe they can give some of it back, but they might need even more if stuff gets more complicated. I told them they couldn't have that money, and they lost it and told me I was being selfish. I argued back that they take from me all the time. I asked why they didn't take the money they saved for all my siblings and use that. Why does it have to be mine? They said I was putting college before my sister's future and accused me of being unwilling because she's my sister through adoption and not my bio sister. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Many charitable organizations provide free medical care to children. Your parents should be well aware of these. They should also have medical insurance or CHIP. I think their story smells fishy. Paying $270,000 for surgery seems suspicious. Please move in with your grandparents. Do not give any of your college money to your parents. It's meant for you. It was saved for you. It was put away for your future. Yeah, this sounds like a scam. Even in the USA without insurance, elective surgery with a few days in the hospital might cost $30,000 to $50,000. OP, it's extremely likely your siblings are covered through the state. Most states have Medicaid-type programs that will cover children if their parents don't make enough. If your parents don't have insurance, then they're morons with that many kids. Your parents are trying to rob you of your future. You're going to need that money very soon and won't have an opportunity to get it back. Also consider, is that money actually yours? Do you have access to it now at your age? And can you use it for something other than education? I doubt that is really the case, especially since your parents took money your grandparents gave to you before. I expect your grandparents have protected it somehow. You could tell your parents if they want money, they need to talk to your grandparents about it, or tell your grandparents yourself that your parents are pressuring you to give them the money. My in-laws want their only child, my wife Diana, to start pumping out grandchildren. Diana is 28 and is just finishing her PhD. Then she wants to establish a career before we start a family. My in-laws know how much money I make and they know we could live comfortably off my earnings. That isn't what Diana wants. She's worked her butt off to get where she is, and she wants to reap the rewards of her hard work. She also says that once she's working, I can cut back on my hours. I'm a welder and relax a little. I've been working since I was 15, so literally half my life. I make a very good living in return for a lot of hard work. I've supported Diana and her education. She'll graduate without student loans. We have a house, she has a good car, we have a good life. We want a few more years alone before we start our family. Over the latest family gathering, in-laws wouldn't drop it. I finally snapped. I said that if they wanted grandchildren, then they could reimburse us for her education. They could further pay her the salary she would be giving up. When she returned to work, they could pay her the difference between what she could be earning and her entry-level position. They could pay for a nanny so my wife could work, or they could back off and wait for us to be ready. They said that they couldn't afford all that. I asked them how they expected us to afford it. I said that if it was really what they wanted, they could just give her the inheritance coming her way now instead of later. They got offended and said it wasn't hers until they no longer needed it. Diana asked me to drop it. She's tried dozens of times to explain why we're waiting to her parents. They ignore her. They ignore what we want for our lives. They've been very cold since that get-together. They seem to think I was a rude idiot for pointing out the costs of what they were asking for. Many of her family agreed that I went too far in asking them to pay if they want a grandchild now instead of later. Not the idiot. They must be reminded in very strong terms that it's none of their business. They have absolutely no say whatever in when you both choose to procreate. Stop being nice about it. They need to be put in their proper place. If they want a new baby around, their option is to adopt. That's where they have a say. Otherwise, they need to shut up and back all the way off. These people don't respect their daughter's autonomous choices regarding her life, so why would you suggest they adopt children whom they will also not respect? Dude, let your wife handle her family. What you said was tacky and classless. Everyone's the idiot here. They are pushing and giving you unsolicited opinions about your married life, and both of you for not just having clear boundaries and not just shutting it down straight up. Instead, you got into that stupid back and forth about money. Their finances are none of your business, and your reproductive tract is none of their business, so why engage like that? You both need to practice firm boundaries now if you are even considering having kids. So to start this off, this issue is with me, 22 female, my sister, 26, and her husband, 30. To add some backstory, basically ever since puberty, my breasts have been large. I have a petite frame otherwise, and I'm 5'2", so I've thought my body looked weird for almost all my life. I've always covered up as best as possible with oversized hoodies, t-shirts and so on. I've always dressed this way as I genuinely was ashamed and hated my body. I started working at 16, I noticed brother-in-law was staring at me a lot. I got uncomfortable and I think my sister also noticed, and she was silent for almost the whole night after that. I thought she was mad at brother-in-law and that she could see that I was uncomfortable with his stares. But the same night she texted me telling me that I didn't need to dress so inappropriately in front of a married man, that I needed to have some self-respect and that she didn't think I was the type to try and seduce a married man. I texted her, explaining that it wasn't my intention, and told her that I actually felt uncomfortable with his stares. She texted me back, just saying that if I didn't want him to stare, I shouldn't have dressed that way. I was extremely upset by all of this and talked with my mother, but my mother agreed with my sister. I'm starting to feel like I should have thought about covering up and doing more, especially since my mother also thinks I was an idiot for this. I'm in no way a Christian, but Jesus responded to this question the best. When his male followers complained about the pesky, provocative female body that forced their eyes to stray, Jesus told those men to pluck out their eyes if it was so troublesome. He told them to remove their hands if they were tempted to get grabby because it's not the woman to blame for her allure, but the man who refuses to be accountable for his actions. So, on very good authority, you're not the idiot. Oh my God, I love this. Struggle with that, Jack. OP, there's absolutely nothing wrong with wearing a fitting shirt. There would in fact be absolutely nothing wrong with you wearing a skin-tight, bright red, low-cut, holy wow dress either. You should always wear what makes you feel good and look nice, and is appropriate for the occasion. Nothing you described even comes close to scandalous. Yeah, what a load of bull. Does the sister go around to every woman in public demanding they cover up because her husband can't control his eyes? What about every other man in the world, unmarried or not? Are you supposed to hide your body to make sure they don't stare at you? What if you do cover up, and then your face is too attractive and they start staring at you? Do you see how ridiculous this is? Men staring at you while you're wearing regular clothes isn't your problem to solve. It's disgusting that your mom and sister are body-shaming you. This is your brother-in-law's problem for staring at you, not yours. It's not your fault he can't or won't stop staring and ogling you. I, 36 male, was a day one adoption. Bio parents never even saw me. My adopted parents raised their family where we were encouraged to be healthy but not pushed to be crazy about it. For example, eat healthy and walk when you can, but don't necessarily feel pushed to do sports or go to the gym. I do exercise regularly though. Anyway, I never really had a burning desire to find my bio family, but I received a DNA kit from a co-worker as a birthday gift and figured there was no harm. They don't know I'm adopted. What I didn't expect was to find a full-blooded sister. Turns out I have 3 sisters and a brother. She reached out to me first, and after a few months of back and forth and advice from my dad, I drove out to see them over the holidays. When I drove up to the house, I thought I had the wrong address at first. The whole family, siblings, parents, grandparents, etc., were outside waiting for me. They were also all morbidly obese. I don't mean that figuratively. My bio mother is basically Darlene Cates from What's Eating Gilbert Grape, and they didn't get much smaller from there. With that said, I tried to put it out of my mind and focus on the positive of meeting my family. The visit was going okay, it felt a little forced, until dinner. A literal feast was prepared to the extent that there were more options than I could eat. In the end, I could only manage a place and a half. The rest of the visit went fine and I left happy to have met them. It wasn't until I got home that I saw the missed messages. I was accused of being a fat-phobic idiot. Everything from my initial confusion when I arrived to how little I ate was scrutinized. I was told I made everyone feel judged and unwanted. I honestly don't care about people's weight, but I also won't pretend that I wasn't put off by them at first. In my defense, I wasn't expecting them to be so heavy, but I also think I demonstrated that I wouldn't let myself judge a book by its cover. I don't know. Am I the idiot? No, not the idiot. Sounds like they're the ones with the problem. They might have been mentally surfing on the "it's genetics" thing their entire lives as a reason for being overweight. Seeing you probably brought a harsh reality crash that their issues are from lifestyle over anything else. Sometimes, a reality hit like that makes people lash out and blame others rather than take responsibility for their own actions. I'm sorry for you that they let something that petty be negative for your first meeting of the bio family. This was my first thought as well. There are a lot of people who blame poor genetics on their weight. We can blame genetics on where we put on weight, but it's mostly behavioral decisions that cause weight gain. My ex-mother-in-law would blame genetics, not the extra calories she ate while preparing meals. Being vocal about it was her preemptive defense mechanism. It's funny that she had a very outdoorsy brother and a vegetarian who was beanpole thin. I think it's normal to look confused when meeting bio family after 36 years. You literally have no clue what to expect, even if there have been social media pictures shared ahead of time. Unless you openly called them all fat, eating a plate and a half is a perfectly normal amount to eat. You shouldn't have to force yourself to eat more than what's comfortable to make them feel better about themselves. This really has nothing to do with you and everything to do with themselves. Please don't doubt yourself and do what you must to keep the peace in your life. My sister had boy-girl twins a few months ago. The babies were long wanted. She had names picked out years before. She's always loved old-fashioned vintage names and has been outspoken about her joy that they are back. She's also been judgmental of my choice of names for my 3 children because they were more uncommon and not classics. But she thought everyone would love her kids' names, Barbara and Douglas. I think she did get some positive comments, but she's been annoyed because some people will say they are sweet old lady old man names, and that bothers her, while some have told her they don't like them because they're old lady old man names. My sister has snapped at her best friend and people in her mommy group over the comments that I know of. Her best friend didn't offer that up immediately either. My sister was bothered by her lack of comment on the names and begged her to give an honest opinion. It sounds like the names are loved at the mommy group though, but my sister takes offense to how they are complimented. She mentioned this to me 3 different times. The first time I said nothing and let her talk. The second time I asked her why it bothered her when she said she wanted more old-fashioned names to come back, and the older the better. Her answer was those are the best kinds of names, and just because people like me don't appreciate them, doesn't mean they are just for old ladies and old men. The third time was when I called her a hypocrite, and this was after she described a couple of new members of the mummy group cooing over the names and then saying the dreaded old lady old man thing, and she lost her temper with them over their description of the names. I told her she's a bit of a hypocrite to hate even the positive comments about the names that mention they are names you would expect to find attached to older ladies and older men when she intentionally wanted her kids to have old-fashioned names. She told me it's very different and I'm just showing how much I hate her children's names. I've never said this to her, and unlike her, I would never disparage names someone else chooses, especially someone close to me. But she insisted that calling her a hypocrite is wrong when it's different to like old names versus calling them old people names. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Sure, your interpretation of it isn't perfect, but she's being an idiot by giving this issue so much damn energy and bringing it up over and over again. It sounds like she doesn't like her own kids' names and keeps projecting that on you, her friends, and people in mom's groups. Tell her you don't want to talk about everyone's names anymore and to get over it. Exactly, it sounds like your sister is having buyer's remorse about the names and can't admit that she hates them now that they're actually attached to her kids. Give me a Walt, Hazel, Henry, Harold, Esther or Ruth any day over names with 3 X's, 4 N's, an EIGH where one should not be, random apostrophes that make 0 sense, and words spelled backward for no damn reason. Also, Barbara and Douglas are hardly old or classic names. Next, I will hear that old movies are things like Finding Nemo.